Welcome to another episode of Inside the Helmet. Well, that was one of the Super Bowls of all time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, kind of struggling to have something exciting to say for an intro. I think that should honestly tell you all you need to know about how the game went, at least the first three quarters, anyway.
Well, if you need enthusiasm, use it on your introduction of me.
Yeah. Goodness. My name's Michael. And joining me hosting the show today is my dad.
Hooray.
Hooray!
That's
Um,
about the most exciting part of what we witnessed on Sunday. Um,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was struggling even during the game, trying to go, oh boy. So, this, like you said, it certainly was listed as one of the Super Bowls. But
Technically a game of football.
yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of defense,
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate both defenses played well. They played hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But as far as we're both offensive players by nature, so we like the
Yeah.
high flying, high scoring, and boy, there just wasn't much of that, man. I mean, let's start with the
Mm-hmm.
quarterbacks. We talked last week. Drake May, we said, don't know if he's ready for prime time. And did you see anything to change your mind about that?
No, not at all. If anything, it only further cemented what we and many other people who were maybe critical of Drake May and doubting his ability to rise to the occasion. It seems like those people were only proved even more right.
Yeah, I think he was the second youngest quarterback ever to start a Super Bowl. So, not saying that he can't grow and rise and
Mm-hmm.
do all that, but he looked just very, very pedestrian. And on the other side of the ball, I was kind of thinking maybe somehow with because he's a lot more seasoned, Sam Darnold would step up and say, "I've been waiting for this stage my whole life," and he was better than Drake May, which
Mm-hmm.
technically, but I'm not sure I couldn't have been better than Drake May. I know you could because you're you're a quarterback.
Um,
I
I, I,
don't.
I, I've seen this post a couple times on various social medias talking about how Alex Smith and his like game manager style of play would have been perfect for this era of the NFL, and I think that really what was apparent in the Super Bowl because neither quarterback was really fantastic. Sam Darnold, I would say Sam Darnold was head and shoulders better than Drake May purely because he took care of the ball. He didn't turn over the ball. Of course, Drake May had at least one fumble. I mean, he well, was that technically counted as an interception? The one where basically the ball got stolen out of his hand.
Yeah, I think they said it was because it never hit the ground.
Okay. Well,
So
Drake
it was
May
a pick
turned over
six.
the ball a couple times, and that certainly didn't help New England. Now, would they have won even without the turnovers happening? Probably not. But Sam Darnold did what he needed to do. The Seahawks didn't ask him to throw the ball 50 times for 450 yards and seven touchdowns to win the game. They asked him to, put the ball in the hands of his playmakers when need be, hand the ball off to Kenneth Walker, not mess up. And that's exactly what he did. And the Seahawks won because of that,
Yeah, and
in large part.
I saw after the game when they were interviewing Darnold about how it felt to win a Super Bowl. He at least was grown up and mature and recognized and kept giving credit to the defense and to
Mm-hmm.
Kenneth Walker, who was the only offensive spark that Seattle really had throughout the game. And he acknowledged publicly that he was kind of along for the ride in that game. And so good for him for recognizing that. I mean, this man gets to wear a Super Bowl ring for the rest of his life, and he earned it. He wasn't just on the team as the emergency quarterback or something. Then I mentioned that because during the week, Jason Garrett was on a panel, talking about the upcoming game, and they introduced Jason Garrett, I think, as two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback Jason Garrett, who was
Wow.
third string behind Troy Aikman, and one year it was Bernie Kosar, and the other I think it was Steve Berline. Um,
Hmm.
and so, yeah, it's one thing to have a ring, but he was the starting quarterback, and he handled the ball, and he did what was necessary to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody is going to remember anything really that he did. But for the rest of his life, he gets to be introduced as Super Bowl winning quarterback Sam Darnold.
For
So
sure. And
good,
no one can ever take that away from him.
yeah, good for him. He earned it. He seems like a good guy. He didn't take any shots at anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes when people get redemption, they spend their time in front of the microphone just kind of lashing out at all those who doubted them, and he didn't do that. He was very gracious. So
Mm-hmm.
so good for him. We mentioned Kenneth Walker being the spark. I had not seen a whole lot of him because down in Texas we don't get a whole lot of Seahawks games unless they're Monday Night Football or something. So
Mm-hmm.
I was not all that aware of him or his story, but I read somewhere that when he was a baby, doctors, I don't even know what his condition was. Doctors gave him about a 1% chance of living when he was born. There was something going on that they were really really concerned about, and then when he had was not highly recruited coming out of high school, and so if anybody had a redemption game, it was Kenneth Walker, who is probably now going to go to Seattle and say, "I just won you a Super Bowl. You need to pay me," and good for him. So
Mm-hmm. Good for him indeed.
yeah. I think the sad thing for Kenneth Walker was at the end of the game, he had a breakaway run for 30 or 40 yards for a touchdown. They got called back for holding. So instead of whatever he finished with, 120 something yards, he might have had in the 160, 170 range, which
Mm-hmm.
really makes you look like a Super Bowl MVP. But
Yeah.
it was interesting that they said that it's the first time a running back has won MVP of the Super Bowl, I think this century,
Really? Yeah,
which
I
I was
did
not.
see that. I think the last time that a running back did was like Terrell Davis in '98.
Yeah, for the Broncos.
Hmm.
So very, very interesting. And his he was just mostly churning out first downs uh,
Mm-hmm.
pretty consistently, jump cutting into the right hole. He's got that ability, and so good for him, and good for the Seahawks coach. Now I know his name, Mike McDonald. If you win a Super Bowl, I'm going to learn your name. And I don't know. I don't see going into next season that anybody's going to be going, oh, they're going to repeat. They're going to repeat. There's,
And it might.
well, anything could happen, but are you going to put money down and say, yeah, Seahawks are going to become the next dynasty?
Maybe not the next dynasty, but I would maybe put money down that they'd be back in the NFC Championship.
Yeah. If they are, it's going to be because of that defense.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of really good players over there, and as we know, defense wins championships.
Mm-hmm.
That's the old adage.
And if Sam Darnold can continue his kind of streak that he started when he got to the playoffs this past season. Goodness, this past season, wow. Um, he led the league in turnovers in the regular season, and then he didn't have a single one in the playoffs.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
I think if Sam Darnold is able to continue being better about taking care of the ball, then that only helps Seattle's chances of making it back.
Yeah, I think the fact that Jackson Smith and Jigma,
Mm,
however, getting hurt early in the game, that he was the big explosive guy in the
mm,
NFC Championship game, and he really was not able to contribute very much in the Super Bowl. So, um,
yeah, very unfortunate.
Yeah, that's a shame. But hey, he's also a Super Bowl champion and gets to wear a
Hmm.
Super Bowl ring.
And
And
offensive player of the year. So
right,
people
right,
can't just say, "Oh, he was along for the ride."
exactly. So anyway, yeah, one of the least memorable Super Bowls. No drama, no real doubt about the outcome, just kind of a plotting. Let's kick a
Hmm.
bunch of field goals, and then after the Drake May turnover touchdown play, whether it was a fumble or a pick six, however they called it, it was essentially a strip sack fumble.
Yeah.
Uh, at that point, everybody knew that the game was over, and I can't imagine the people who paid tens of thousands of dollars to go sit in the stadium and cheer that on. Uh, I mean, you're happy that your team won, or can you imagine being a Patriots fan and doing that,
Mhm.
and your team shows up like that? Uh,
Yeah.
just
And then,
didn't
then
really look like they had a plan.
and then arguably even worse than being a Patriots fan in that situation, being a neutral fan, just wanting to go and see a good game and then seeing that.
Yeah,
But, oh well. I
yeah.
guess the Super Bowl is still the Super Bowl.
Well, it's the last game of the season, and you crown a champion. And
Mm-hmm.
but I think if you look back over the history of the Super Bowl and you start going, okay, so who were the best Super Bowl winning teams of all time? The Seahawks are going to be forgotten really quickly. They didn't have the marquee names. They just played well enough to keep winning, and
Mm-hmm.
they won the last game. So,
You're gonna look really silly for saying that in 5 years when the Seahawks have won three more.
well, if the Seahawks win three more in the next 5 years, I will gladly, take a bow and say I was incorrect. So
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it happening. There's too many other teams out there with marketable big name firepower players and more coming into the league every season. I just I'm not saying I think Seahawks are going to go into the tank or anything, but just anyway.
You
So
have to agree that this Seahawks Super Bowl champion. Before we move on, you have to agree this Seahawks team is better than the previous Super Bowl champion Eagles.
I'm
I would say
not I'm
so.
not wow, I'm really torn. Uh,
I would say they're
because
better offensively, especially their passing game.
Well, but they weren't in this game is the problem. And for me to give any credit to the Eagles almost feels like I can't. It's so hard for me to do it, even though
Then
there's
don't.
actually some players on their team that I like. They're good guys. They're just the arch rivals of the Cowboys, and
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, let's not go there and start giving the Eagles any credit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm trying to remember the last really great Super Bowl team that I can remember. I mean, the certainly Kansas City going on the run that they had when they were stringing them together and having Mahomes. But I think if I had to pick, I would say I've lost track of the years now. But the Mahomes team that won it when they still had Tyreek, uh, because that Tyreek Hill, because that
Mm-hmm.
combination to me, Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and whoever that they had at running back at the time, because they've had a string of pretty decent running backs, kind of felt like maybe, okay, yeah, this is a team that could beat all of the other 31 teams unless they absolutely didn't show up. I don't feel that way about Seattle.
Yeah, I think that's a valid take. I mean, especially because there were a few, especially in the NFC. Heck, in the NFC West, I think had the two best teams in football this year. So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think
if you're
the
talking about
Rams
the
would have won the Super Bowl had they made it. Um,
oh, I thought you were talking about the Niners. I wasn't
I
even
think
thinking
the
about the
Niners would
Rams.
have beaten this Patriots team had they
I
made the
think
Super
so
Bowl.
too.
I think. Hold on. Who made the? Hold on. Here, let's run down all the teams that made the playoffs.
Yeah,
From the NFC. Eagles. Do you think they would have beaten the Patriots?
not this year because they had a lot of internal problems.
Okay. What about the Bears? Think they might have.
Bears are riding right now totally on Caleb Williams, who is spectacular at times and awful at other times, like a lot of young players. So
Hmm.
that's a maybe.
Okay. Panthers probably not. Rams definitely. Seahawks definitely.
Well, they did.
Obviously because they just did.
Yeah.
Um, why is it so hard to pull up the playoff bracket? Um, I guess that was all of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
Seahawks, Rams, Panthers. Oh yeah, Packers.
I think that the Packers are again one of those hot and cold teams, kind of like the Bears.
Hmm.
If you get Jordan Love on a good day, he can light it up. And if you get him on a day when he's fumbling and throwing picks, then they could lose to anybody. So, yeah,
I guess more of the teams were necessarily hot and cold rather than just straight out better than I
sure,
remembered.
sure.
Um, I guess that point wasn't as strong as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Um, anyway.
So I wanted to, as our final little football, kind of wrap up on this season
Hmm.
goes. You and I were talking before the podcast about if we were to pick an all-time team and not going through all 22 positions because we're offensive players, so we think about
Hmm.
four positions: quarterback, running back, receiver, and tight ends. And if we were to pick, I would be highly biased if you said pick two from each category. I'd be highly biased and I'd pick uh, Dallas Cowboys. I mean, my two quarterbacks uh, for me would be Roger Staubach, of course, and Troy Aikman. And the running backs would be Tony Dorsett and Emmitt Smith, and the wide receivers would be Drew Pearson and Michael Irvin, and the
Hmm.
tight ends would be Jay Novacek and Jason Witten.
You're telling me you
And
wouldn't pick Michael Crabtree?
he didn't really play for the Cowboys, um,
I know.
so I thought it would be more interesting if we each picked two quarterbacks, two running backs, two receivers, and two tight ends. Only they cannot be Dallas Cowboys, and we can rotate who gets to pick first in whatever category. And you being quarterback, I will let you have the first pick for your team at quarterback all time in their prime, non Dallas Cowboy.
Do we want to have a no Tom Brady rule, or
Well, he was a quarterback, and so you can pick any quarterback from any era in their prime as the first pick in for your all time team.
well, I'm gonna look really stupid if I don't pick Tom Brady. I know obviously there's debate of he didn't have the most talent, and he certainly didn't. You know, there are quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. You could even argue like Peyton Manning or Drew Brees that had more talent than Tom Brady. But at the end of the day, Tom Brady has 7 rings
Yeah, he's the
because
winner.
yeah, he's a winner,
Okay,
and so
that's a solid pick. They call him the
I
goat.
I'm taking Tom Brady because I'd be very stupid not to.
Okay. Since you're taking Brady, then that means I'm going to take Mahomes because I would feel stupid if I didn't take Mahomes. I mean, the guy's got
Mm,
multiple Super Bowl rings, and he's got the improvisational skills, and he's a winner,
hmm.
and he's got the big arm. He's got leadership. He's got really no flaws in his game. So, okay, so you got Brady, I got Mahomes, and now you need one more quarterback.
This is weird because I would never hope that this second quarterback would have to play, and there's certainly several names that I would want to have on my team.
Yep, you got to pick one.
Well, I know that. Um, I think I'll go with another person with the initials PM in Peyton Manning.
Okay.
Um,
No, it's a good
I
choice. That was going to be mine.
hmm
So
I believe he's.
he's the good.
Would you say he's the second best quarterback of all time?
I think we just decided he was the third
I
non-Dallas
guess.
Cowboy.
I guess.
He was the cerebral quarterback, and nobody
Yeah.
prepared like him and could read the play and know the play before it ever happened. That
Yeah.
leaves me unable to take Peyton Manning as my
Hmm.
second quarterback. And so now we've got a whole bunch of guys, and you start going, well, do I want the arm talent? Do I want the leadership? Do I
Hmm.
want the rings? And
I was thinking about that, and I had Peyton Manning on the board.
there's a lot of guys with arm talent that I could take, but
You already
you
got
mentioned,
Mahomes.
well, right. I mean, you mentioned like Aaron Rodgers, and even Brett Favre, the guys that
Hmm.
immediately come to mind, big arm leaders, winners, but each of them won one Super Bowl. And
Hmm.
so I'm going to kind of throw a little curveball in here because you picked Brady because of how
You
many
picking
Super
another
Bowls he won.
TB12?
Um, I'm going to take Joe Montana,
Okay.
because the dude has four Super Bowl rings, and I watched him in his prime. He was he would have to run the West Coast offense,
Hmm.
obviously, but
Yeah.
I just can't argue with his production. So, okay, so we got our quarterbacks out of the way, and you got first pick on the quarterbacks. So I get first pick um, on the running backs.
Okay.
And in my what I call my dude room with my big screen, that I watch games on and all of that, I have mostly Dallas Cowboys, except for one exception for what I consider to be probably the best all around football player, definitely on the offensive side that I've ever seen, and a guy who just did it right and never ever gave up on a play. And that running back would wear number 34 for the Chicago Bears. And that would be Walter Payton. May he rest in peace. I even have a Walter Payton jersey, and it may be the only non Dallas Cowboy jersey I own. So there's my pick for the first running back off the board.
Okay. Well, for my first pick at running back, I will pick another running back who wore number 34, and who many, including myself, would say is one of, if not the greatest athlete to ever walk the face of the planet. Though he may not have had the best NFL career and put up the most numbers just because he had a really short career, I think that Bo Jackson, in a world without injuries, would be widely regarded as the or one of the greatest running backs of all time had he had more time.
I understand that, and Bo was freakishly athletic in ways that there's probably not anybody else that I could ever compare to him. I did not see, even when in his prime before he got hurt, I didn't see him have the same kind of uh, cutting side to side ability that I would
He
want to
doesn't need
see.
it.
But he was so strong and so fast, and he scared people in a way. So, I mean, that's a solid pick. And
Hmm.
so that leaves me in a bit of a quandary because I didn't see you go in there. So now I have to pick between two guys who could easily be my second pick. And the question is, do you want the guy who had the most wiggle of any running back ever, the ability to cut side to side and make people miss, or do you want the Clydesdale, um, the one that was the best one cut runner, even better than Terrell Davis and bigger and even faster? So I'm trying to choose between Barry Sanders and Eric Dickerson, um, because both of them are clearly just unbelievable. and I'm gonna go with Eric Dickerson just because I saw enough games where Barry Sanders would lose yards on 5 straight carries and then burst for 78 and a touchdown. So he was so feast or famine that his statistics and his highlights look great, but I need a running back that I feel like is going to get me positive yards most of the time. And if there's a crease, he's going to take it and no one's going to catch him. So I'm going to go with Dickerson.
That's a great point that you make about Barry Sanders. And while I was sitting here, um, thinking about that, I was thinking like, okay, I'm glad you didn't take Barry Sanders because then I get to take him. But now, do I want to take Barry Sanders
I
after
talked you
you?
out of Barry Sanders.
I'm afraid you might have.
Okay.
Because when I'm thinking about it, Bo Jackson, sure, he's great all around athlete, but his greatness comes from his uh, raw, characteristics, his speed, his power. But you
Sure.
don't really think of Bo Jackson as someone with a whole lot of technique, and Barry Sanders is someone that you think of having maximum technique. But like you just mentioned, he can be a liability at times, trying to make every play an 80-yard touchdown, and he can end up losing 5 yards trying to gain more in the process.
And he might retire at age 30 on you. So
Yeah, well, I mean, Bo might get hurt, but in this
sure.
world, we're hoping that doesn't happen. But that made me think of another running back that was kind of a do it all type of player. Someone who could genuinely play receiver if you needed him to, could throw the ball occasionally if you needed him to, and that's Marshall Falk.
Yeah. Yep. Good
Uh,
choice. I thought you were
I
going to go Adrian Peterson, but yeah.
I
Okay.
almost did. That was
Yeah.
the other guy I was thinking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
As well. But I think Marshall
Okay.
Falk is just extremely well rounded and could be useful in literally any situation that I might need to
Okay.
call his number on.
All right. We only have a couple of minutes left, so we're gonna have to
Mm-hmm.
speed this up a little bit.
All right. Do I get
Let's knock the tight ends out.
sure?
Um,
Do I get first
you
pick because you got
get
first pick with
first
the.
pick. Yep.
All right. I'm taking Gronk.
Okay. You're
I'm just best overall. Big, strong, fast, can catch, can block, can dance on you. Um, can do it all. He's seems like a really great, fun guy to have in the locker room as well. So,
sure. And suddenly I'm going blank on tight ends.
hmm.
Um, I'm 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 thinking more old school. Um, oh boy, you're probably thinking probably the person you take second is I'm just gonna jump in and go, oh my gosh, that's who I should have taken. Because I'll go old school just because of the records and go with Tony Gonzalez.
Okay, yeah, I think that's the other consensus best tight end.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
who's your second tight end?
Well, and there's a part of me, despite the criticism that he's faced, that wants to say Travis Kelsey, just
Yeah.
because it is undeniable his ability to find the window in the defense and get open. But I'm not going to go Travis Kelsey because the tight end needs to do a lot more than just catch the ball, and I've seen too many times Travis Kelsey get exposed as a liability on blocking, and so I'm actually going to go with George Kittle,
Oh no.
someone who's proven
Oh.
to be a more well-rounded tight end,
Uh,
true tight end,
and you're right. And
can run and
took my
make
pick.
make defenders miss, run over them in open space with the ball in his hands, but can also put his hand in the dirt and block when you need him to.
Yeah, and that means that I should take Travis Kelsey because of the
You also go
whole
Shannon Sharp,
what he's done. I would take Kelsey over Sharp, but you know what? I'm just going to throw a curveball in here
Antonio
because
Gates,
no,
Jimmy Graham,
um, no,
Mike Ditka. Well, he played for the
no,
Cowboys.
no, 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 no. I'm going to talk about a guy who made big plays in the playoffs that are memorable and part of
You're not taking
NFL film.
David Tyree, are you?
No, he wasn't a tight end. Part
Well,
of NFL
whatever.
lore and part of my childhood. And so I am going to go, and maybe the young people will look this dude up. His name was Dave Casper. He played for the
Mm.
Raiders. He was fantastic for his day. Now, he's not the athlete that these guys are anymore, but he was
Well,
a
yeah.
big
How old
big.
is he? Like 80?
I'm not sure if he's with us or not, but he was Kenny Stabler's tight end,
Mm.
and so I'm going to go
I'm
with him.
familiar.
So, all right. So we got
Okay.
four more picks, and then we got to wrap it up because my dinner's on the table. So,
All right.
wide receiver, of course, I get the first pick. And I am going to go against conventional wisdom, what everybody talks about with the GOAT. And so I am going to go with the best one that I've ever seen. And that would be 84 for the Minnesota Vikings and Randy Moss.
Okay. That means I get to go with conventional reasoning, even though I agree with you. Had I had the first pick, I would take Moss just because I feel like his physical ceiling is higher than that of Jerry Rice. But you can't argue with the man who holds every record by a country mile in terms of receiving, so I'll go with Jerry Rice.
Sure. I'm torn on my second receiver. There's so many out there. Some guys have speed, some guys have hands. Um, some guys, boy, there's just so many to choose from. And I think I can't pick Terrell Owens because of his diva attitude would ruin the locker
Mm-hmm.
room.
Mm-hmm.
And there's reasons not to pick different guys out there. And so, and you probably think that I'm going to pick Chris Carter as my second one because he's the only one that I ever admitted had better hands than I did as a wide receiver. Um, but
I mean, I wouldn't blame you.
well, and he'd be a solid pick. Jerry Rice's running mate with the Niners, John Taylor, was also fabulous. And um, I'm trying to think. I want to be a little bit obscure. Maybe have some people go look this guy up. I'm gonna go obscurity. A guy who played for the Chargers way back in the Dan Fouts era. His name was Wes Chandler. Wes Chandler was fantastic. He had he was so fluid and so quick, and he had great hands. I almost chose Lynn Swan for that reason, but Lynn Swan broke my heart as a Cowboys fan too many times in the Super Bowl, so I couldn't pick him. So I'm going to go with Wes Chandler.
Okay. Well, you said Chargers. I thought you were about to say Lance Allworth.
No, Bambi was a little
Oh,
before my time. So
true.
yeah,
Well, I was sitting here while you're making your pick. I threw around a few names, but I'm gonna end up coming back to the first person that I was hoping that you would leave on the board for me with my last pick, and that's Calvin Johnson.
I knew you were going to
Uh,
go Megatron. Yeah,
an old, but I have sound reasoning for it. Jerry Rice is well. How tall is Jerry Rice? Like 6 foot, 6'1", maybe.
6'2". Yeah,
Yeah. So he wasn't known to be like this big, physical, brutish wide receiver to go catch a jump ball
sure,
over anybody and everybody. And Megatron fills that role perfectly. You have that in Randy Moss, of course.
sure.
While Jerry Rice is maybe more the you know, catch it and then run with it and make people miss. Calvin Johnson is you throw it up to him and you know he's going to come down with it because he's bigger than everybody else around him, and not in a tight end way.
Yeah, no, I
So
mean
I
he's
also thought about going Chris Carter, Sterling Sharp, a couple other names.
yeah, all solid
Oh.
choices. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, like I said, my dinner's on the table, so I'm
Yep, I gotta start
exiting
getting ready
stage
for work in a
left.
bit. So.
Yep.
Yep. Well,
Okay.
thank you for tuning into another episode of Inside the Helmet. Maybe next week when we come back, we'll be talking more about F1 because testing is starting. The
Oh
F1
boy.
season's less than a month away, so I'm gonna have plenty to talk about for that. So,
Okay.
but until then, thank you for tuning into this episode, and we'll see you next time.
God bless.